Hey guys, and we are back, and welcome to CAD Live, episode 50. Actually, this is the 50th episode I've done of this series on charisma and dating and other matters. And today we've got a very, very special guest, and we're going off on a slightly different tangent today. But I'm joined by Mr. Poker and Politics, who, if you don't know, if you're not aware of his work, a guy called Mike. He's dressed in a very fetching anti-COVID mask here in the to the side of me here. Mike is just an all-round awesome guy. He does an amazing podcast, basically debunking conspiracy theories, and in particular the Q related, the 17 related conspiracy theories. He's also got a fantastic Twitter feed, which is called at Poker Politics, and a Patreon as well. But I mean, Mike, would you like to introduce yourself to the guys and sort of say a bit how you got into this whole vibe?
Oh, well, I got into all of this stuff because I started off in high school as someone that was really investigating the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I was obsessed with it. I was sure it was a conspiracy. This led me to becoming a 9/11 truther and believing all that nonsense. Then one day I basically had a friend call me a moron for buying into the 9/11 stuff, and trying to find information to debunk him led me to find out that he was right and I was the idiot. And that really woke me up that I had been making a lot of mistakes with what I was believing in. And the next thing you know, I started following the Illuminati New World Order conspiracy theory, all those people talking about how if you go like this around your eyeball, you're part of this super secret cult that worships Satan, and you're part of the elite that rule the world. And I was following the Illuminati and all that stuff and the people that were promoting that nonsense like through the 90s, through the 2000s. And then I heard about QAnon and I knew what it was. I knew it was just the Illuminati, but now Trump was the hero. Yeah. And I started reading about it and I'm like, yeah, this is what this is. And also it's getting so popular and it's now kind of mainstream, and that makes it really dangerous because these people believe in such a horrible, bleak world where everyone is a monster and a bad guy who abuses children, that worships Satan, that hates their society. They want to tear America and the UK down and bring about this one world government and give rise to the Antichrist. And it's a terrible way to go through life, thinking that everyone you see on television is evil and a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, by the way, as a British guy with an American guy on the show, I should just first of all say many congratulations on Donald Trump's landslide win in the recent election.
Yes. Any day now, we're going to confirm that. Oh, man, they raided a server in Germany, and they're going to bring it into the Supreme Court and show how he won California and everything else, and we're going to make Trump the president again in a little while.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, listen, I'm really keen to get into a lot of that stuff in a bit because obviously it's a really fascinating time at the moment. And I know that the chatter about this stuff is just going mental at the moment on all the social media platforms and everything. But what we wanted to sort of kick off with talking about really is dating and in terms of conspiracies. And I mean, like, I suppose the first question is, who is the biggest Q debunker heartthrob? Is it you? Is it Travis View? Or is it Mike Rothschild? Who's getting the most tail?
I think they're both married and I have a girlfriend. I don't know of any swinging QAnon debunkers out there right now.
Okay.
Man, that is a good question. I mean, I got to drop about 100 pounds before I can even be in the conversation at this point. But Travis is pretty dreamy. I'll give him credit for that.
I wonder who the biggest Q promoter heartthrob is. It might be I don't know. Well, Paul Joseph Watson actually. He's not really on board.
He's Alex, and Alex. The funniest thing about that is that QAnon will talk about how Alex and Paul are like Mossad-funded disinformation, and they all say the exact same thing. They say the exact same thing that QAnon does, but they're bad guys being promoted by Mossad. And meanwhile, we are like Q is the truth and the light. It's so funny. And I do worry about the people that are outside my window. When you go at QAnon as hard as I have, a lot of people tell you that they're going to kill you or that you should kill yourself. I had one person hilariously tell me they were going to throw me into the Grand Canyon. So I'm kind of just, and I think they thought I was living in Las Vegas because like right now I'm in Massachusetts. So
okay, yeah.
Trans America Drive to get me there. And that'd be a lot of work. They should just, I don't know, kill me on Boston Commons or something. That'd be a lot easier for me. I'm just waiting until after, because originally I had thought there was going to be violence after the election.
Yeah.
If Trump lost. But QAnon has been so good about pushing off the date of when they're actually going to lose to Inauguration Day. I'm just waiting until like February, March, when they've gotten all their like civil disobedience and rioting and whatever like lone wolf terrorism they're going to commit, and then I'll probably take my Witset gear off and just be a normal like fat white nerd on the internet. So that's why I'm wearing this getup, as it were.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I suppose, I mean, we were saying before we came on board that on air rather that I mean, on a serious note, I guess in terms of relationships and so on, this is perhaps quite a testing time for people who are either they are Q believers or they have a partner who's a Q believer or whatever. I mean, have you seen any of this in terms of your, being in this space? Have you seen any sort of ripple effect from this?
Oh, it's terrible. The QAnon casualties subreddit is so full of relationships where people are talking about grabbing the kids and getting away from their spouse because the spouse is so aggressively involved in QAnon that they can't deal with them anymore. And they need to, just for their own mental health and the welfare of their children, they've got to leave the relationship. Yeah. And it really sucks. And the one thing that I've heard from so many people that have talked about this is they're like, why can't the QAnon person just like be nice to their family and like, promote this stuff outside of it? And the problem is that QAnon is all about the Great Awakening. It's all about getting people to buy in and believe this nonsense. So if your family's not believing, you're failing the QAnon community and you're not helping them get the job done. And in a lot of ways, this community becomes your family. They take over from your actual family in real life.
Right.
And they become the people you support. And it is the worst thing in the world. And it makes me so sad whenever I see it, is you will see a person on social media say, well, I did it. Like my wife just took the kids to the grandma's house and we're getting ready for a divorce and this was all happening. And they will get like 1,000 likes and all these retweets. And all the comments are, don't worry, bro, hang in there. One day she'll see the light. One day she'll understand. One day she'll come to you and realize that you are telling her the truth. And they just keep the guy in the cult. They just love him. And they let him know that it's going to work out and he's going to win. Nobody ever says, dude, it's your wife, it's your kids. Go to her. Leave us. We're not worth it. They never think that way. They only think of keeping you in the community, keeping you in the group. Yeah. And it's really terrifying. They're very good at emotional manipulation that way. And a lot of these people don't even know they're doing it. They don't even know what they're doing as a cult tactic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a whole interesting aspect here, isn't there, about cults and the way that cults operate. I think I saw somebody somewhere recently, I don't know if it was something you tweeted or somebody else, but they said that QAnon was unusual because it's the first ever decentralized cult whereby, sorry, carry on.
Oh, no, that's a great point. And this is one of the defenses that QAnon likes to use is like, we're not a cult. Who's our leader? It's an anonymous guy. It's not David Koresh. It's not Jim Jones. It's not like this charismatic figure at the center of the whole thing. And it's really funny because what QAnon did is Q literally started a cult and then said, your God is Donald Trump. Like, not me. I'm not your God. Your God's the guy in the White House.
Yeah.
And that was such a very interesting thing to do. Never has a cult leader like told people to worship a different guy. And also they won't reveal themselves, even though Ron Watkins right now is literally writing Q drops on Twitter. So that's hilarious. But everything they're doing is so strange and kind of like a spin-off of like the standard like cult playbook, as you said it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fascinating phenomenon. I mean, so what about if you are a guy and you've met this new girl, maybe over Tinder or, whatever, and, COVID permitting, you go out on a date with her and you guys meet up and you go for a drink, and then she starts talking about Dominion servers. I mean, what do you do then? Do you bail immediately, or do you...
there's basically like what I would consider to be levels to the conversation. Right. Dominion servers is kind of a red line where that you should know you're in a serious problem and you've got to get out. But if she's,
That's like eject immediately.
Eject immediately. But like if she's complaining about masks, people complain about masks all the time.
Yeah.
Masks are like annoying. They're a problem. I work in public, and everyone has to be wearing masks in the casino.
Yeah.
Everyone gets angry about it, and people are pulling their masks down around their necks, and no one's yelling at them because everyone's upset about it. So like, and there are people out there that'll be like, masks are a dumb piece of cloth. They don't even work. They're not going to save me.
Yeah.
So like that's one thing. There's so much misinformation out about the vaccine that I know rational people who are like, I'm not sure about this vaccine. Like even when I'm ready to get it or I'm eligible to get it, I'm going to wait a month or two and let other people get the shot first and see how it goes. So like on those issues, you may not be dealing with someone who's just actually totally invested in QAnon. They're just dealing with like the fact that these conspiracy theories have bled into the mainstream and they're hearing misinformation. But if you heard the Dominion voting systems, oh my Lord, now you're dealing with someone who really is in the weeds on this stuff. And you probably need to just like call it a day and get out of there. Because it's a bad situation. The main thing that like what I was dealing with is people that were already in a relationship who got like found out their significant other is now pilled. And that is just so bad. It's such an unfortunate thing. But
it must be really weird as well when because say you get into the relationship with somebody, say you and the girl or whoever it is, you're seeing each other and it's all going well, and then the person starts to go down the rabbit hole. That must be really tricky. And I'm sure you've seen this where people just change over a period of time and they become just invested in the whole thing.
There's so many times where I'll read on QAnon casualties again about I remember one where there was a woman who was saying that her boyfriend was like into spirituality, UFOs, got away from Western religions and was going into like Buddhism and like spiritual awakening and consciousness stuff. And she just sort of let him ride with it because that was his vibe. And then the next thing she knows, like a few months later, he's talking about Hollywood drinking the blood of children. And she's like, where did this go? Where did this come from? And there's been this movement now with like the wellness and the yoga influencers on Instagram and stuff like that. They're being manipulated by these Q adjacent movements, like at the Outer Shadows fake documentary. Even though Liz Crokin is a huge QAnon promoter, they never bring up Q in that entire thing. It's all talking about Pizzagate and just this one event. And they try to keep it unpolitical and they make Hollywood the bad guy. Same thing with like the Save the Children movement marches and stuff like that. You keep it vague. You keep it just about protecting kids from problems. And you slowly get people to buy into that. And then you tell them, oh, yeah, by the way, here are the bad guys that are going after the kids. And that's how these people get roped in. It's like they start thinking they're dealing with a good cause. And then they find out they're dealing with an actual, like, just crazy cult. There was this great tweet from this very disingenuous QAnon promoter who said, we are anti-pedophile, anti-Satan, anti-treason. Does that mean our opponents are for these things? And that's like such an obvious setup. It's such a great way to frame yourself as the ultimate good guy, and your opponents can only be bad guys. They can't have actual reasons for why they don't like you. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was Trump's kind of response, wasn't it? When somebody put the Q question to him a while back. He's like, they don't like pedophiles, so they gotta be good, right? Exactly. But I mean, it feels to me like, and maybe it's just because I've taken more of an interest in this stuff over the last year or so, listening to you and Travis View, and these other people who are sort of on the debunk side of this. But I find the whole thing massively fascinating anyway. And to be honest, it's also given me, as a foreigner, it's also given me a way into American politics in a way that maybe I didn't have before. So I've now become obsessed with American politics as well through this, because it's just, but obviously Q is a worldwide phenomenon. And so what I'm coming around to saying is, do you think that 2020 has kind of been a gift for this whole movement, hasn't it, in a sense? Because like I was in central London here, right? There's been a few, obviously, anti-lockdown marches and stuff like that. And I walked past one a couple of months ago, and everybody's you've got all of these different factions. You've got the anti-lockdown people, you've got the anti-vax people, the anti-mask people.
But then you've got some people with Q flags as well in there. So now it's all kind of just merging into one, isn't it?
Oh, that's the biggest thing about QAnon is it's what I call a grand unifying conspiracy theory. Anything you believe in, they will accept. If you're against masks, they're like, welcome aboard, anti-mask people. If you're against the vaccine, they welcome you in. Come on in, anti-vaxxers. Anything you oppose, they are willing to oppose it with you and then tell you, here's more stuff for you to oppose. Someone, there was this like synopsis of a paper about cults and about QAnon's ideology, and they said it's very inclusive, and the term they used is yes and. So when you come to QAnon with a concern or a theory, QAnon's answer to you most of the time will be, yes, you're right, and on top of that, and then they'll introduce you to more stuff.
Yeah.
This is the red pilling guide. These are things that were actually on 8chan. I'm sure they're on 8kun now. Red pilling guides are all about how you get people into QAnon. It's like pickup artists, but for converting people to QAnon instead of trying to get women. And one of the things that they always talk about is find common ground with your target. Like, you talk to them about masks, and they say, "Oh, I want to wear the mask. I got to prevent COVID. I'm helping out my community. I'm a good guy." So you're like, "Okay, masks won't work on this guy." So then you bring up like global warming, and you say, "Hey, is the science really settled on that? How do you feel about that?" And like, if he shoots you down on that, but you just keep moving down the list of all these different conspiracy theories, and when you finally find something where the guy's like, "You know what? I don't know if those planes could have knocked down those buildings on 9/11. I'm not sure." Now you got common ground. Now you can make him a 9/11 truther. Now you can really work on that, and then you pull him into the rest of it later. But that's the most important thing. So, like, when you have this group of people, like the anti-maskers, the anti-vaxxers, the anti-lockdown, whatever it is, you just agree with all of them and then slowly get them to agree to all three things over time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like just bringing them further into your narrative, isn't it? I mean, like, maybe this is a little bit of a conspiracy theory in itself, but I mean, do you think that's something like, because there are a lot of guys who are, I mean, like Mike Cernovich, for example. Yeah. Mike Cernovich was a blogger, and he used to just write about goofing around and meeting girls and stuff. Really, I mean, he was, that was his thing, and I think I think there was some kind of interesting stuff about his time in Thailand as well, that he's now, he's got rid of all that site. But he became obviously what he is now. And there's a whole bunch of other people in his wake who've sort of come from, maybe they were talking about dating, they were talking about girls, or they were talking more broadly about self-development, and it was all about that. And then suddenly around 2016, in all these comment sections and everything, suddenly it was all about MAGA, and it was all about, and then it started to turn around. I mean, do you think that there was a sort of deliberate kind of, were people infiltrating to some extent to try and pull new recruits in, or do you think it happened organically, or is it, maybe it's impossible to say?
I think these kinds of people, they just kind of go where their audience kind of leads them.
Right, yeah.
When you see what your audience is doing, you move to that audience and you grow your audience. Like a long time ago, maybe like a decade ago or so, there was this big movement on YouTube of like atheists getting really big on YouTube. And they'd come in, they'd like post videos about like dunking on the Bible and all this stuff and talking about creationism being silly. And they would get a good-sized audience because there really wasn't a lot of atheist voices out there that were talking about this kind of stuff at that time. And then this really weird thing would happen, at least for me, because I was a bit older. I was like probably in my like 30s or so at that point, so I was kind of like an adult. But these guys suddenly went from like atheism to like, what's accurate is Gamergate. Gamergate is right about these things, and Anita Sarkeesian is a terrible, evil woman. And I would just look at this and be like, wow, this is so strange. And there was this real like kind of like pipeline from like atheism to like men's rights activism to like anti-feminism. And it turned out that the guys that were like taking that path were just like finding a bigger audience and like finding more people, because the online atheist community was like this, not that big, but like the men's rights community and like the anti-feminist community was a much bigger pond to swim in, and they were just getting a bigger audience that way. So like I think you feel like you're like a kind of guy that presents himself like an alpha male, like Cernovich and these other dudes that you get on board, because like you have Trump, who's like this brash, arrogant, cocky guy who's like literally just like dunking on Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz at the debate stages, dunking on Hillary. That your audience is going to be like really into Trump because like he's the alpha guy. And then you see what your audience is like all about Trump. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go to Trump to keep my audience happy. And also because Trump's like in a general election, he's like the big star of the show right now. I'm going to grow my audience as more people go to Trump. They're going to find me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and a lot of people, I think, in 2016 jumped on the Trump train and then wound up with, 100,000 followers on Twitter or something.
Oh, absolutely. Bill Mitchell was like the ultimate example of that. Bill Mitchell was like tweeting like 4,000 times a day and just being like, Trump's going to win. He's going to do it. He's my man. I'm all about Bill Mitchell. I mean, all about Trump. Him and like the Dilbert guy, Scott Adams, they were like psychotic Trump supporters. And then when Trump won the election, people thought they had something to say. They were like, what did Bill Mitchell and Scott Adams see that we didn't see, that the media missed? How did they know Trump was going to win? And it just turns out there were a couple of lucky idiots and they really didn't have much to say. But when you call your shot and you hit it, you look so good. Your audience is now galvanized and they get more people because they're like, hey, don't listen to the mainstream media. Listen to Bill Mitchell. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
He was the guy that predicted that Trump was going to win because more Halloween masks of Trump were being bought than Halloween masks of Hillary.
Yeah.
That was insider info. It's just that is the thing that will happen where like Trump inspired this big movement around him. People glommed onto it. And I think everyone thought the ride was going to end after the election, but then he wins. Now you had 4 years of it. And they were hoping they were going to get 8 years of it. I mean, it was that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the whole thing is really fascinating, but it's kind of like, I mean, you talk a lot about how at base this is all a grift, really, and I think what you're saying here is similar in a sense because, like, you've got your audience, and we're all to some extent, we're on social media, we've got the audience and stuff, and then you're looking around, you're thinking, well, where do I go now? And my sense of it is that actually this route is pretty profitable because, like, there's a guy, I know one guy, I may have shared a couple of tweets with you of his stuff, and he is essentially somebody who talks about relationships, dating, whatever, but he's taken a very sharp turn into Q, and his followers are starting to go up, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes sky high as he continues down this route. Because I think, to be honest, I think there's a big audience of people who are into this stuff, right? And then it's monetizable.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you find this, and the thing is, the Q audience is almost like prepackaged for you in a way. You know what they want. You know what they want to hear. You know what to tell them. There's a YouTube channel. I think it's probably been taken down with the big YouTube crackdown on QAnon. But there was a YouTube channel called like X22 Report, and that guy had like no following, very little engagement, just doing standard like right-wing boilerplate stuff. But he got in on QAnon pretty early, and then he became one of the biggest QAnon YouTubers out there. He's got a massive following and had like all these subscribers. And it was just because he got in at the ground floor. Yeah. And that's the thing is, if you find a movement ahead of time and you can become like one of the pillars of that community, it really helps you like be trusted and be someone that everyone's like, oh, I should listen to this guy. He's not jumping on the bandwagon. He was here from the start. He's an honest believer. He's got credibility.
What about the people that you talk about a lot? You've got that guy Major Patriot. You've got I don't know. There's Martin Geddes, isn't there? There's these different people. I mean, were they all fairly small back in 2016? Have they all grown in this last period?
Major Patriot is like kind of new from what I could tell. I think he only came about in like 2018. So many of these guys, it's just tweeting a lot. It's just being really engaged. It's talking about all the silliness that Q talks about, and like just being like really active in the community of the nonsense they say. And like the more you show that you really care and that you're passionate and that you're like just psychotically in favor of Donald Trump and want him to be president for forever, the more of an audience you'll get. Like the guy Julian's Rum, who just got banned from Twitter. like he would be up at like 3 a.m. posting like 12 tweet threads about decoding the latest Q drop and working out all this kind of stuff. It's really aggressive, like the way he is. And these people like show this kind of stuff. David Hayes, the praying medic, he was there from the start. He has his shtick, and when I watch his videos, he's so boring, and I'm just amazed that he has the audience he does. But people told me that like his audience is old people and people he's like hand holding because he goes through the Q drops very slowly, very calmingly, and he explains what Q's really telling you. And for like the people that like kind of don't get Q, but they want to get it and they want to be part of the community and feel like they're part of the movement, he's a good explainer and he's a good helper to hold their hand through this stuff. So all these guys like find a niche to fill in the community, and then they get people all riled up. And then if you have like Jordan Sather, you start selling healing crystals and miracle mineral solution. David Hayes, praying medic, sells his terrible fan fiction books. He has a faith healing class on his website for $120. He can teach you how to heal with your hands.
Wow.
So like these guys, they find ways to grift, and some of them just want to be internet famous, like Julian Throm and Major Patriot. I don't see any monetization on their part. They just want to have like 3,000 likes when they write anything on Twitter. They just want to feel special.
Yeah. But like we know, I mean, it is a very monetizable thing because that is the basic content.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I mean, and most influencers or content creators have the same model. It's like you put out a bunch of free content, people like you, they like your stuff, and then if you sell something, they'll buy it. And obviously, you Patreon and all the rest of it. But when you're dealing with something that is so potentially damaging in many ways, then it becomes, obviously problematic. But going back to the dating stuff, you did a great piece on that war clandestine thread. Now, I actually just went onto his feed. I don't know, has he taken it down? Because I can't actually find the thread now.
Oh, if he took it down, that'd be a tragedy. Oh my God. He may have been shamed so badly that he gave up on it. For those of you who did not read this thread, it is truly one of the most hilarious things that ever happened. It was a guy who was basically on the opposite side of our story. He's a QAnon Trump supporter who found a girl, and then as his story goes, he has bedded her. She is on top of him, and mid-act, she says, "Wait a minute, did you vote for Trump?" And this kills the mood so badly for him that he pushes her off of him and then silently gets dressed and walks out of the room. And it's so dumb. And then he walks along Washington, D.C. He asks God for a message. A shooting star flashes across the sky.
Beautiful.
He prays to God and he sees a vision. I mean, it is... Of all the things that have not happened in this world, this has not happened the absolute most. It is such a ridiculous... And the thing is that if you read this guy's Twitter timeline, it is so aggressively QAnon and Trump. The idea that he could have ever shut up about that long enough to trick a girl into bed with him is insane. I mean, like people like him, like their Tinder date profile has like "where we go one, we go all" on it. I mean, these people are not subtle. This is not a guy that's a shrinking violet about his political views, and it's so absurd that he just wanted to portray himself as such an incredible manly alpha. And it's such eye-rolling cringe. It's really ridiculous.
I'm trying to find the thread. I seriously don't know if he's deleted the thread because I was going to show it on the screen, but I actually can't find it. So unless I'm being stupid, but maybe he did take it down. But it was really sort of like fan fiction-y the way it was written, wasn't it? It was really of like
it was just he was literally the protagonist of an anime. I mean, that's what he was.
But do you think? I mean, are there dudes? I mean, let's face it. Like being without being crude about this, that in many cases, a guy he's just about to to get it on with an attractive woman. I mean, like many guys, I think in that situation would perhaps not be keen to spoil the moment, right? I mean, but are there dudes out there who they're just such massive Trump supporters that they're not going to allow something like trivial like sex to to get in the way of their allegiance.
That's the thing that makes me laugh about it. Is it's just the idea that he wouldn't have just like lied, finished having sex with this lady, and then been like, oh yeah, by the way, I am a Trump supporter. Sorry, catch you later. I mean, the idea that he was so alpha and such a man that he's like, I'm so pro-Trump, I'm so MAGA that in the middle of being with a woman, I'm just gonna just push her off of me because she didn't salute the God Emperor appropriately. I mean, it's so silly. I mean, it's just such a ridiculous idea that that's a thing that would happen.
The other thing is that he didn't even. I mean, presumably the way she said it. I guess what he's getting at is the way she said it was disapproving. She's like, "Wait a minute, you're not a Trump supporter, are you?"
And the other thing that's so funny about that is that they were. I would assume they were talking. They were having a few drinks. They were having a good time. It's only in the middle of having sex that she's like, "Wait a minute." It made me wonder, was the sex so bad that she was like, wait a minute, I'm going to think about politics here.
Yeah.
Doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just that. I mean, it's like, what is going on here?
Yeah. I've just got to clarify before we go any further.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
if you're just going to lay there, are you a Trump supporter? I just need to know something. I need to figure out what's going on.
It's like you say, though. I mean, because he was sort of describing it. It wasn't the first time that they've been together or something. So how did this not come up before, right?
Yeah, he said this girl I've been seeing, through a dating app because I wasn't able to go out because all the bars are closed, and the next thing you know, they're in bed, and then this question comes up, and it's just like you've got to be kidding me. I mean, it's like you're absolutely joking at this point. And I knew someone who quote tweeted that ridiculous thread, and I've checked that person's timeline. So it does appear that he has been shamed, and he did pull down the thread.
That's a sad state of affairs, because that should have been safe for posterity.
Really. Oh, I'm angry at myself because the thing was I only screen grabbed the first line of it, the first tweet. Because I knew it was so ridiculous, and I wanted to do that hap stream, and I didn't want to step on my hap stream by posting the whole thread of nonsense. I kind of wanted to have people go into the hap stream fresh, not knowing about all this clown stuff. Oh, wait a minute! I think I have that thread on my phone, so I took the screenshots on my phone.
Oh, nice!
So I could read the script when I was doing the hap stream. So let me pull up my phone, and I don't know how. I'll DM it to you on Twitter if I have them.
Yeah, do and I'll see if I can get it up.
Yeah, so let's see if I actually have my good friend War Clandestine's nonsense here, because that would be really funny. So,
but the funny thing is bringing politics into the dating arena. I mean, there were guys back in 2016 or 2017 or whatever, even in England, even in the UK, which is obviously we're obviously an entirely separate country. We're a different continent, everything else. There were guys over here who were massive Trump supporters, and they would talk about going out wearing red MAGA hats and then going up to approach, talk to girls. And if the girls objected, to the fact that they were wearing MAGA hats, they just saw that as a good thing, because they said it's good to be polarizing. It's good to show that you're independent minded. You don't care what other people think, etc., etc. But it just seems very odd to me to bring politics into this arena at all, really.
Oh, yeah. The MAGA hat was like an identifier. It was like a cultural signal that, the only women that you wanted to be with were people that were ideologically the same as you, and that you and them, and that way, you had trust that you knew this person was of your tribe, as it were, because you didn't have to worry that they were an evil liberal. And I mean, that's the thing that's so kind of ridiculous about this, and it's just such a negative attitude to have about life. The idea that you couldn't trust a woman who saw the world differently than you to be a partner in life, to challenge you, to have conversations and debates and discussions, that you needed someone to be with you who is only. It's only cool if they are rigidly of the same ideology as you. Like that's the only way you could possibly have a good relationship. And I've dated a couple of Republicans. Never really went anywhere, but like if I can have an intelligent conversation with you, I'm willing to like talk to you. I mean, like, I'm not. I mean, if it turns out you're a QAnon supporter or whatever, then the conversation won't be that intelligent. So we'll have to go along. But I'm not going to be this kind of person that's just militant, that I'm right about everything, and there's no way anyone could ever talk to me and show me that I might have some things to learn about this world and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the whole process of engaging with people and governing conversations. You're never going to actually like learn anything if you're not willing to be challenged about like, what you think is going on.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, because we've all become so massively polarized now that it's become like that, hasn't it? You know, it used to be the case that you could sort of be like, oh, it's good to meet people of different persuasions and backgrounds, because then you guys can, you know, it's kind of more interesting or whatever. But now, because we've got to a space where the other side is just evil, you know, the other side are just satanic monsters, and it's like there's no sort of room for maneuver, is there? But I've just got your thing, so let's see if I can hold on a second.
Yeah, you're gonna chop it up a little, but yeah, I found the script of our good friend War Clandestine and his ridiculous thread that he is to shame, but thankfully I preserved it for posterity.
Beautiful. I went to DC last night to visit a girl I've been seeing. I met her from a dating app. She's on top of me. She stops kissing me, looks me in the eye, and asks, "You didn't vote for Trump, did you?" I mean, come on. I mean, can you imagine that? Like, really, seriously, can you imagine that happening?
Yeah, and just the idea that she's on, like, the date has gone so well. They are now in bed, and in that moment, that's when she has the epiphany to ask him, "Oh yeah, by the way, who did you vote for in the election?"
Yeah.
And the other thing that makes me like laugh about that is like you just look at this dude and you look at his Twitter avatar like profile with like his jaw jutted out and his shaved head and his like trimmed beard. And if like you look at that guy and don't think to yourself, there's at least a 75% chance that guy voted for Trump. If you're not thinking on that level, maybe you're not picking up the right social cues here.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a sort of archetypal Hillary supporter, does he?
No,
really?
He doesn't. He doesn't look like the kind of guy that's like going to be talking about how having like daycare paid for by the government is that he's really worried about in this world. But yeah, he doesn't seem to be the kind of guy that has a lot of empathy out there and trying to help out his fellow man.
Yeah, this is just, I mean, I'm looking a bit further through this, like when he gets in the car and he drives off and then he's outside he's overlooking the Washington Monument, listening to nature, and he says, "Eyes glossy, I contemplate the state of this country. How in God's name did we reach this point? What would Washington think? I looked to the sky for answers." I mean, it's just so false, isn't it? Just the way that it's sort of composed.
As someone pointed out to me in one of those tweets, he mentions frogs croaking, which is an obvious reference to QAnon and Pepe and all that stuff. And someone was like, "He's talking about frogs croaking in December? There are no frogs out in the winter." Shut up. It's I didn't see anyone report anything about the brightest shooting star you've ever seen flying across Washington, D.C. at midnight last night.
Yeah.
I think that there have been a couple of YouTube videos of that shooting star, because it's kind of like how everyone saw UFOs back in the day. Then we all got smartphones and could record a UFO if it ever showed up. And there were no more UFOs. So weird how that Now that we have all the technology to catch UFOs, we can't find them. It's so strange.
Yeah. Although there was something on Fox News again. I saw a tweet about it talking about UFOs. I mean,
the government declassification and stuff like that. I'm just talking about like all the UFO sightings. You would think.
Of
all the UFOs we used to see back in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like nowadays we have like 1,000-fold the number of cameras we had back then. So we should be spotting UFOs every 5 minutes now.
Yeah, exactly. Just a final thing on the dating stuff. I mean, if you are out on a date and say you meet a girl and you get the sense that she's, Q-pilled, as it were, is it worth just dropping in, if you want to keep things going, is it worth just dropping in a few, like, sort of hints? Should you sort of like just drop in a little bit about, Dominion servers again and Hamburg and stuff like that? Is it worth just dropping in a few crumbs just to keep the thing going? At least for that one evening.
Well, the big thing I would say right now with all of this, any relationship like status you've been in, like if you met a girl and you kind of like her, or you met a guy, you kind of like him, whatever it is, if you've met someone and you kind of like him, or you're in a relationship or whatever's going on, this is a pivotal moment in QAnon where they've been lying to their followers that Trump is going to somehow get sworn in on January 20th and remain president. Like, they've had all those ideas. Today is supposed to be the day. Actually, no, it's tomorrow or whatever. But on the 18th, they're supposed to declassify this important brief about the election. And then Trump's going to use this executive order from 2018 to arrest everybody. And that's going to come and go. Then on January 6th, Mike Pence is supposed to throw out all the Biden electors and accept only Trump electors in this like just delusional belief that the founding fathers, when they wrote the Constitution, would have given the vice president like total power over who wins elections, and the vice president can decide if he wants to stay or not, which is not true. None of that is true. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, because obviously right now, very, very interesting time, because we've just had there was the SCOTUS thing, wasn't there, when they kicked out the last...
They lost in Texas.
And then the Electoral College, obviously. And, it seems to me, from the few people that I look at and follow and stuff, that it's like the worse the news gets, the more sure they are. Now people are saying it's not even doubling down, it's like tripling down. It's like now after the Electoral College, it's like we are winning so much. This is amazing. This is exactly what Trump wanted.
Right.
It's a bit like
it's so every defeat is only a bigger trap to catch more people. It's like when the states certified the elections, now all of them are going to be arrested. Now that all the electors have casted their votes fraudulently, now they can all be arrested. Like, it's just like every time you try to tell them, no, guys, this is bad, they're like, oh, no, we're just throwing out a wider net to catch even more fish, and it's all going to work out. And this is the thing, is they just keep pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. And when January 20th rolls around and Joe Biden is actually sworn in as president, that's going to be when all of the lying these people has done comes to being exposed as a lie. When they finally get left holding the bag, and that's when you can go to your wife, to your girlfriend, to the girl you're just starting to date now, whoever it is in your life that's a QAnon believer, and you can have a talk with them, because one of the major ways people leave cults. They don't leave cults due to ridicule or being humiliated or being shamed. Like, I only do that to major QAnon promoters. If you're like a person with like 10 followers and you yell at me on Twitter, I'll probably reply by saying, how's your day going? You feeling good? How are you? What's going on in your life? Because those people I want to talk to, like Martin Geddes, Major Patriot, those guys, they're in this for life. They're never going to stop doing this, and ridiculing them and showing everyone else what idiots they are is like kind of a way I try to keep people out of QAnon, by showing people how QAnon's not cool. But when it's a person in your life, when it's just when it's someone that you deeply care about, what will get someone out of a movement like this is a big moment, a big event, like if a relative died or they lost their job, or just some event is a shock to their system that makes them like reevaluate things and think about things and try to reassess their life and where they are. And so for all of these people, January 20th is going to be that big shock moment when like they're going to be sitting there watching the inauguration thinking that like SEAL Team 6 is going to rappel down the Capitol building and storm the dais and arrest Biden, Obama, Kamala Harris, Hillary, and then Trump's going to be sworn in, and there's going to be fireworks going off, and everyone's going to chant MAGA. It's going to be great. And when it actually is just Joe Biden walks up, takes the oath, starts giving a speech, and their brains are going to break. They're just not going to understand how reality is working this way, where the evil bad guy they were promised would never win the presidency and never be sworn in as president is the president. And he's talking as the president now, and Trump's off in Mar-a-Lago or whatever, doing whatever it is he's doing, and he's not the president. And it's like, in that moment, like, you don't want to rub it in their face. You don't want to like humiliate them. You don't want to be a jerk to them. But when they want to talk about it, because like at some point their world is going to be shattered, basically. When they're just like, I don't understand how Biden's president. Like, Pence was supposed to throw out the bad electors. We had the Dominion servers. That's when you can go to them and say, like, honey, look, like, you were being lied to. This whole thing was a lie, and these people were tricking you. And you want to be positive. You want to be encouraging. You want to say, look, you believed in this because you thought you were going to be saving children. You thought you were going to be making America a better place, the world a better place. And it was only because you were so like concerned and so caring and so empathetic that you got spun down this web and you fell down this rabbit hole. But now we have this moment where we can turn the positive goodness in you to a productive place, to a good place.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Positive reinforcement, compassion, empathy. That's what they're going to need in that moment. Because January 20th is going to hit a lot of people like a ton of bricks. And this is going to be the chance. I mean, some of them are going to say no. Some of them are going to find their new fantasy, their new conspiracy, their new way to keep the LARP going and to keep believing in this fantasy world of God versus Satan and all that stuff. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, man, I was like hoodwinked. I was conned. I was scammed. And how do I deal with that? And having empathy for the person who fell for the Nigerian prince scheme, it's very important in that moment, because this is when they find out their bank account got emptied and they're not going to receive that $15 million. This is the moment they figure out that this was a lie. And so that's going to be a big moment. And I really think that if people handle it right, like I would say anywhere from like 10 to like 50% of the rank and file QAnon supporters could be pulled out of the movement in that moment. Because it's such a big thing. Because there's a reason why all these idiots are out like screaming hashtag Biden will never be president. I mean, they're just so determined to scream and yell about this and stamp their feet. And it's such an important part of who they are and what they claim to be, that when they find out they're wrong, now everything changed. And everyone's telling me, oh, they'll just pretend that Trump controls Biden and he's still in charge. I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is a hard red line. The whole point of QAnon is to be able to stick your finger in the chest of a liberal and go, Trump is your president. You've got to accept that. And they can't do it anymore. They can't do it when Trump's no longer the president.
Yeah, exactly. It is going to be a hard line in the sand, isn't it? And it's I don't see that there's any way around that, really. But just here's one thing, right? So just with the situation as it currently is, so people are talking about these dueling electors or whatever, and they're talking about, and I was watching somebody's stream last night, and this is a guy who's bet quite a lot of money actually on Trump. You know, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he's got followers who have also bet money, and he's saying, "Don't worry, guys, we got this in the bag. It's fine." Even though Betfair is now paid out on Biden, and I think some of the other betting companies are paying out as well.
Paid out, and they've got a lot of people.
And he's saying, "Don't worry, guys, it's going to be fine because come inauguration, when Trump does get in, they're going to have to reverse it, and they're going to pay us out and whatever." Right. And the key things are the dueling electors or whatever you call it, and also the Dominion servers. So with the electors thing, I mean, what is the truth about this? Is there any?
Well, I love this. So the truth is there's only one slate of electors. That is the slate of electors that's been certified by the governor and the secretary of state of that state. none of Trump's supposed fake electors have been certified. They're not real electors. They're people that are pretending to be electors. Now, what's going to happen is on January 6th, they're going to read the already written votes from the Electoral College in the congressional record. You can object to these this vote if you want to. It requires one member of the House and one member of the Senate to file an objection. Right now, Mo Brooks, a Republican in the House, has said he's going to do it. He's going to file his objection. We have no confirmation that there's a senator who will do it yet. In 2000, numerous Democrat representatives objected, and Al Gore had to keep telling them, do you have a senator to second you? And then the Democrat would say no, and then Al Gore would say, well, I can't listen to your objection, then I'm sorry.
Okay.
If a senator does object, and Ron Johnson's been kind of hinting that he might do it, all that happens then is the Electoral College is put on hold, and there's a 2-hour maximum debate in the House and the Senate separately about the objection, and then the House and the Senate hold a vote separately each if they're going to accept the objection that was lobbied. And the big thing here is both the House and the Senate must agree to the objection to then remove those electors and put new electors in place.
Right,
so,
okay.
Which is controlled by the Democrats, will never approve this objection. So the House will vote no on the objection will fail, and those electors will be counted towards the Electoral College. This is the actual constitutional procedure. This is how it works. Mike Pence can't wave his magic wand and kick all the Democrat electors out and bring in the Trump electors. So all Mo Brooks and Ron Johnson or any other Republican senator can do is throw sand in the gears by demanding these 2-hour objections for Pennsylvania, for Arizona, for Georgia, for like 5 or 6 states if they so desire it. So it's possible if the Republicans are going to be big enough jerks, and Mitch McConnell will allow it, because the rule is only a 2-hour maximum. There's no rule for a minimum. Mitch McConnell could get sick of it and call for a vote 5 minutes in, and then after the Senate votes yes or whatever, the House will obviously vote no, and then they'll be like, okay, Pennsylvania's votes are counted, boom, on to whatever comes after P, Maine or whatever. So, and then they just keep rolling. So even if they did everything they possibly did, all they could do is like make the Electoral College like finish certification on January 8th or 9th. If they just dragged it out for a couple days, filing numerous objections.
What are these objections? What are the objections based on? Is it these other elections? Is it all about the Dominion stuff, basically?
It's nonsense. It would be the Dominion voter fraud, the Kraken lawsuit from Sidney Powell with allegations from guys with like screen names like Spider with a Y, all that kind of nonsense. Like they don't actually have any evidence that they to present. So it would just be, and also they would complain about just like Pennsylvania made it too easy to vote. There was too much vote by mail. It was unconstitutional. How much voting they let happen based on like this way, that way. What's really funny is in that Texas lawsuit to like overturn all those other states, Texas was whining about how easy those other states made it to vote. Texas had drive-through voting. Texas did an incredible job getting people to vote this election. Texas is a notoriously non-voting state. It's always been like a Democrat, like a core faith of the Democratic Party that Texas isn't a red state. Texas is a non-voting state. And if we could only activate all those Latinos, all those like college-educated people in Texas, we could turn Texas blue. And it turns out Texas voted their butts off this year, and they voted for Trump. So whatever, what are you going to do about it? But, I mean, that's the thing is, I'm in favor of more people voting. I don't care who you vote for. I just want you to vote. I love democracy. But all of their charges are baseless. It's all Dominion. It's all. I mean, I don't think the hollowed halls of the Senate are going to bring up the raid in Frankfurt, Germany, for the Dominion server. Although Marjorie Taylor Greene might do that in the House after she gets sworn in, but their objections are going to be baseless, and it's mostly going to be about how much of this nonsense Exactly, Ben. Like, this is a thing. There was not like Texas. Normally, like Texas elections have about like a 40% turnout. This time around, it was like almost 60 or 65%. There was a ton of voting in Texas this year.
Yeah,
God
yeah,
bless you guys for doing so. I don't care that you voted for Trump. I care that you vote.
yeah,
And,
yeah. So
but yeah, but it's all going to come down to how long will McConnell allow this nonsense to go on?
well, he's because he's congratulated Biden now, hasn't he?
Right.
So
He called Biden vice president elect. He called Kamala Harris vice president elect. So it's it's up to him. It's basically, if Ron Johnson or some other Republican goes to him and says, "I want to file an objection," it's going to be up to Mitch to say yes or no. Because again, if they file the objection, Mitch can call for the vote immediately. Mitch can they can all walk the Senate, and then McConnell can be like, "Okay, idiots, vote on the objection right now." And Ron Johnson could be like, "But I want 2 hours to debate it," and McConnell will be like, "Shut up, there's nothing to debate. Like, just go on the record with." And that's the thing, is I don't think they want to do it because Ron Johnson's running for re-election in 2020 in Wisconsin, which is a blue state. It's a close state. It's a swing state, but it's blue. Does he really want to go on record as being the guy that was like all about the Dominion voting servers and all this nonsense, and he voted yes to throw out Biden's electors? How many Republican senators who are going to be up for re-election, like Marco Rubio? There's like 20 or 22 Republican senators up for re-election in 2022. How many of them want to stick their necks out and vote yes on the raid in Frankfurt, Germany, the Dominion voter servers, Sidney Powell's Kraken lawsuit? How many of them actually want to put their butts on the line for
because
that nonsense?
would it be that stuff specifically that they would be debating then? Would they be getting into the weeds about the Hamburg thing and the Kraken and all that stuff? Because surely if that stuff's all been debunked before, wouldn't it be a little bit odd if they're then debating it and they go, "No, actually, we think it's all true."
Right. That's the thing that makes it so dangerous. Is like they have no non-crazy grounds to complain about this. Like, the only things they could talk about that are like not QAnon based gibberish is like the mail-in voting in Pennsylvania, like the changing of the laws to allow easier access to voting due to COVID, and all of that stuff is like really boring and technical. And all of that stuff also got laughed out of court because all the courts basically said, "Hey, you should have filed your lawsuit when this law passed. You can't file your lawsuit after the election, after your guy lost."
Yeah.
Because again, Texas changed all of their laws. They changed everything. They made voting super easy. Trump won. No one's challenging the results in Texas. No one's complaining about that. They're only complaining about the states that Biden won. So to be in this kind of situation and to try to argue that the law is ineffective and boring, and if you try to argue the Dominion stuff and all that nonsense, now you're just writing campaign ads for the Democrats. Now you're outing yourself as a crazy person. Which is why I really think at the end of the day, McConnell's going to tell all the QAnon curious people like Ted Cruz and Rubio and Rob Johnson, he's going to tell them, "Look, don't do it. Do not object. Let Biden win, because any vote that a Republican casts is bad." Like, let's say that I don't even know, like, but like if it's a safe state, like say Louisiana or Tennessee or something, and you're a Republican and you vote no on the objection, now you're going to have some QAnon challenger in the primary screaming and yelling about how you sold out the George Soros and the global satanic pedophile ring. And you're not going to be facing this person and that's going to be like screaming and yelling about how you didn't support Donald Trump and you didn't back him up. And you don't want that. You don't want to deal with that. So like even a no vote can hurt you, and a yes vote will hurt you in the general election, when the Democrat will be able to say, "This guy doesn't even believe in democracy. This guy tried to throw out your vote and install Donald Trump as a king." So I really feel like when push comes to shove, McConnell is going to tell those guys, "Do not do this. Do not object. Do not make us put these votes on the record if we're either crazy people or if we respect democracy," which is a bad position to take in a Republican primary.
Yeah, definitely. And this, just on this Dominion stuff, I mean, like, all I've seen is there's all these calls for, where's the evidence? Let's see the evidence. And the QAnon people that I read are just saying, just be patient, and they before that they'll criticize you for being low energy or sort of low IQ. Why are you asking for evidence? Come on, man. And then when push comes to shove, they sort of say, just be patient. It's all going to come out soon. It's all going to come out. I mean, is there any evidence that this? Because the Dominion is the main thing they're hanging their hat on now, right? Isn't it?
Yes, and the thing that's really funny about Dominion is Dominion didn't even get used in Philadelphia, which was the big city in Pennsylvania that Biden ran up his huge vote lead to win Pennsylvania. Like, if you go through state by state, county by county, where the Dominion voting systems were used, Trump did very well. Trump was fine with the Dominion systems. It's just that Dominion has a scary name. This is a rehash of the Diebold controversy that liberals were complaining about in 2004 when Bush beat Kerry, and people were saying that Diebold flipped Ohio in the election to Bush because Kerry was going to lose the popular vote by 2 million and win the Electoral College if he won Ohio, and he lost Ohio by like 50,000 votes. So I remember I was in that conspiracy world back in 2004, being a 9/11 truther and getting mad at Bush about doing 9/11. So I was totally believing the Dominion the Diebold voting machines, and now I'm just seeing that spun and reversed in 2020 as Dominion voting machines that were for the Democrats and not the Republicans.
Yeah.
What's really funny is so many people, and there have been so many people on the left, voting security experts, all of these people who want these machines thrown out. They want to go down to just hand-marked paper ballots. Maybe the simplest, easiest, safest way to handle our elections. If QAnon actually made that a bipartisan issue, where we threw the voting machines out and everyone just got handed a piece of paper, handed a pen, filled in the circle, that'd be the funniest thing in the world if we actually got that to be a reform in our elections. It was because of QAnon, like, pressuring Republicans to do it. Well, the Republicans would never do it because they want to give out $1 million contracts to voting machine companies to put the voting machines in their districts because that's how they make their money. But it'd be incredible if we actually did get down to just a paper, pen, maybe an optical scanner to read the votes afterwards. That'd be about it. I mean,
I think we still use. Like when we vote, we still use paper and pen. I think I'm not aware of any machines. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're starting to roll them out in some places. But last time I voted, it was paper and pen. So
and when I voted in Nevada, it was on a touchscreen machine that printed out a paper receipt that you could view.
Oh, okay.
And then when I voted this year in Massachusetts, it was just paper pen. So
okay, yeah. So I mean, God, there's so many things we can talk about here, but I'm conscious of your time, apart from anything else. And thank you for getting up early, by the way, for coming on here, because it's like I don't know what ungodly hour of the day it is, but
I'm on a second shift schedule, so for me, waking up before 1 in the afternoon in America is really early for me.
Yes.
Well, I usually work until 1 in the morning. I usually work 1 to 1, and then I go to sleep. I work like 10 to 12 hours, 4 days a week. Although this week I have off due to COVID. Thanks, America, not getting that fixed.
Well, indeed. I saw there's a headline in the Evening Standard, which is the London paper today. I saw posted up on a billboard. It said, "Save London before it's too late," and I just thought, this is Happy Christmas, everyone. Do you know what I mean? It's so brilliant. I mean, what with some of the people that are sort of like, they're pushing this stuff and they're like, no, Trump is going to win. Like it's going to happen. Just wait and everything. I mean, do you think in their heart of hearts they believe this, or do you think or is it just it depends on the individual?
Oh, I mean, I do think that a lot of them are true believers. I think that, like, at some point, even if you got into QAnon and MAGA just to make a buck, and you just are doing it as a hustle, sooner or later you start believing in it. Sooner or later you start rewiring your brain and start thinking that this is a way that the world actually works. Like, I don't think there's a way you can kind of like get rid of that stuff and stop thinking that way. I remember when Glenn Beck first started back in the day, I thought he totally was just doing it for money. I thought he was just a total con artist. And by the end of his run at Fox News, I'm like, Glenn Beck is crazy. Glenn Beck actually believes in this stuff. So you can't do this stuff just for the money and think to yourself, oh, I'm scamming these fools. Oh, they're emptying their pockets for me. I'm making all this money. Sooner or later, like, in order to sell the lie, you got to buy into it. You got to believe the lie a bit, and then you start believing in it more. So about 2-3 weeks ago, Praying Medic posted this long thing about how he was going to kind of change what he was doing, and he even said, like, I don't know who's going to win this election. He even was that ambiguous about the winner of the election. And then like a week later, he's like, Trump's got this in the bag, guys. Don't even worry about it. And he's running back. And I just think that's the kind of thing where these guys, they're trapped. They're trapped in this world they've created. And even if they have doubts, even if they are questioning themselves, they can't ever tell us that. They got to have that brave face. They got to be arrogant. They got to post a meme about how comfy they are and how they know this thing's going to work out right for them and how Trump's totally going to win this thing. All of it. Like, they're never going to stop, like, promoting it until January 20th at noon. And then I remember in 2008 when Obama got sworn in, they flubbed a word or two in the oath. And Fox News is like, he didn't get the oath right. He's not really president.
So even then it carries on.
And it carried on. Well, what was funny was it went on for like a day. And John Roberts, our Chief Justice, he does the swearing in ceremony. John Roberts was like so annoyed by what happened. He actually went to the White House the next day and swore Obama in again a second time. And then he was like, okay, everybody, I swore him in. It was good this time. Everyone shut up. So, like, they're going to have a couple hours because Biden is known to have a stutter, that he worked his whole life to fix the stutter. So Biden will probably screw up a word or two in the oath, and they're going to live off of that for like 48 hours. And then that's not going to sustain them because Biden's going to be president. It's going to be obvious he's president. And then they're going to start like freaking out and screaming and being insane.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask about Inauguration Day, but you think actually there could be fallout? It could last for a couple of days longer, and then what's going to happen? Is Twitter just going to blow up, or is I mean, it's
because you're just going to have so many. Because the thing is like you look at the supporters of all these guys, like Martin Geddes, like Major Patriot, like Praying Medic. The supporters, you can see doubt. You can see them being worried. You can see them being concerned. And you can see them leaning on the promoters for support, that the promoters are making them feel confident, that they can trust the promoters are telling them the truth. And it's because they believe in what these guys are telling them, they're willing to keep on buying in and believing. But when reality hits them in the face, they're going to start screaming at those promoters. They're like, you lied to me. Biden's the president now. How can Biden be the president? And that's when everything's going to go crazy. Joe M., the guy who actually made the video, QAnon, the plan to save the world, he had a post on Parler that said, Trump can't lose. If Trump lost, that means Q failed, and Q cannot fail, so that means Trump won. So that's their logic. That's their line of logic, that like this can't happen. Biden cannot win, or Q is wrong. And so that's why January 20th is going to be so devastating, because it's a red line. This is an actual moment where reality punches these people, and they can't lie about it. They can't say, oh, no, Dominion voting servers. Oh, no, illegal votes. Oh, no. They can't change it. They can't change reality when Biden is president. And that's why this is going to be such a big moment in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Because even Martin Geddes said it was a red line, didn't he? It's at some time.
Oh yeah, Martin Geddes said that like if Biden gets sworn in, it'll be like a moment of like reflection. It'll be a moment of reconsideration. That was like his very British way of saying. That.
I think he lives just quite near me. Actually, I think he lives over the river somewhere. So maybe I can
bring him in the show. Oh my god.
Yeah. Maybe try and get him on.
He's of all the people in QAnon, he has the most interesting life. He is such a.
Well, he was.
What'd you say?
because he was married, wasn't he? And then his sexuality changed, or he realized, and so on. And
he was raised by Jehovah's Witnesses. He got out of the Jehovah's Witness cult. He was married. He had kids. He had a period of self-discovery and realized that he was gay. This led to a divorce. And then he was an IT professional who was doing pretty well at that stuff. Then he got into QAnon and he kind of lost all of his professional credibility because he was such a crazy QAnon supporter that no one could deal with him. And now he's just living his QAnon life. And he's invested in, again, he's one of these guys that has invested himself so heavily that when January 20th rolls around, it's going to be devastating. I mean, this is going to be an absolutely devastating.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I don't really understand about guys like that is that it seems. I mean, and he went to Oxford, didn't he? He's obviously an intelligent guy, whatever, and yet it seems so simplistic. You know, this whole sort of the battle for good and evil. You know, and everything is like a movie, isn't it? Everything's like a '90s movie, and it's like now. I mean, I saw Ron tweeting, you know, we're about to witness Trump end the globalist siege, you know, with his back to the...
He's going to create it in hand. He's going to not fire until he sees the whites of their eyes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's also dramatic, and it's also sort of like, it all feels so false, really. I mean, because obviously, as we know, the world is much more complicated than this. And yet you've got a guy like Martin Geddes, who's clearly, you know, intelligent, and yet he I know that I've asked you before about intelligence and conspiracy theories, and I know that intelligence and, you know, it's not correlated in that way, but like, wouldn't a guy sort of objectively sit down and say, hang on a minute, this feels a little bit like a comic book, right, rather than real life?
That's the thing, is that conspiracy theories like this, they bypass rational thought and they hit you emotionally. You get into a conspiracy theory for reasons beyond just intelligence. It fulfills an emotional need. The community of QAnon, the empowerment, the idea that you know secret knowledge that the other people in the world don't know about, the idea that you have excitement, the battle between good and evil, all that kind of stuff. I had an incredibly intelligent friend, a young guy. He was playing this card game called Magic the Gathering, and he was kicking everyone's butts at it, and there was, at the time, a series of tournaments you could play in, and if you won the tournament, you got like $1,000 scholarship for college. And he and these other very smart teenagers were going to all these tournaments and smashing them and getting $1,000 scholarships, and they were racking up like $5,000-$6,000 scholarships a year. And then you could play in a big final championship tournament for like $10,000 for scholarship. And I told this kid, I said, look, man, you're real bright, but when you age out, I think that the cutoff age was like 17 or something. When you age out of these tournaments, you can't make money at Magic the Gathering. Like, if you are a professional Magic grinder, the most money you could make ever is like $100,000 a year. If you were incredibly lucky, the cards fell your way, everything broke right, and you'd have to travel the world. You wouldn't have a regular lifestyle. It'd be really tough. Get into poker. There's so much money in poker, it's ridiculous. So he did. Yeah. He got into poker. He crushed poker. He won a tournament. He won a tournament for like $100,000. He had a deep run in the World Series one year. He did all this stuff. But then he got into day trading, and he was crushing day trading, and he was making all this money. And then he just kept looking for the next bit of truth, the next bit of information. And the next thing I know, he's telling me to buy physical gold and silver because the American dollar is going to collapse and be worth nothing. And then he was complaining about Barack Obama being Barry Ceruto, and he wasn't really born in America. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening here? Like, you can't be a high-level poker player and not be incredibly intelligent. You can't do the things you're doing and not be incredibly intelligent. And now you're doing this stuff. And it's just, you never know what's going to get somebody. But like, he was just looking for knowledge. He was looking for inside information to help him crush day trading. And the next thing he knew, he found out America was a lie and that it was all propped up by nonsense and like evil corporations. And so like, these people go looking for one thing and they find something completely different and they're sold on it. They just believe it. And intelligence is no defense for this stuff. If you're a lonely person, a group like QAnon is so accommodating. They're so friendly. They're so inviting. It's easy to get sucked in, especially if you start on a neutral level, like save the children. Like if you're just trying to save the children, you go to a couple marches and you talk about that stuff. And then someone tells you that vaccines are unsafe and to look into this stuff. And they send you some websites and some links. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, these vaccines are unsafe. That guy at the rally wouldn't lie to me. That guy at the rally was a good guy. He was my friend. We talked for like 3 hours before he slipped me this information about the vaccines. And then you get in deeper and deeper until you're fully pilled and you're fully part of the community.
Yeah.
And that's how they suck you in. They lure you in. It's a cult tactic. It's indoctrination.
Yeah. It's always that thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, now you know the truth about this, and you know, and there are bits of truth in all of this stuff, isn't there? You know, there are things, and it's like, so now you know about Jeffrey Epstein, therefore,
right? Exactly.
You know,
exactly. America's medical system is a for-profit medical system. It's terrifying. It's bad. So when you start saying, oh, these people are selling you this stuff, why do you think they're selling you these vaccines? It's to make all this money. And then you're like, oh, yeah, they are only selling me the vaccine to make a buck off me. And it snowballs. It just goes from there. And the funny thing is that, like, if you actually looked at it, like selling you a $1 vaccine prevents you from getting hospitalized for having whooping cough, which would make the hospital way more money. So they're actually hurting their profits by giving you the vaccine.
Yeah. One thing that I've always found a bit puzzling in recent times is seeing how people who are very ostensibly very right wing, but they're also sort of becoming anti-capitalist, because you've had this whole thing about the globalist agenda and these globalists, you know, and all of that stuff. And it seems it's always, in my naive way, it's always felt to me it doesn't quite balance in a way, because it's like, hang on a minute, if you're really right wing, aren't you meant to be ultra capitalist? So isn't globalization therefore the greatest expression of, you know, big business, you know, might makes right and all that kind of stuff? But actually, it's kind of gone back the other way, hasn't it, really? And it's a kind of a fascist credo, isn't it? That actually going back to the land, you know, being self-sufficient, having a farm and 17 kids, that's the real way to go. And all of the rest of it is suspect somehow, is it? So I don't know if you've got any comment on that, but it's just always interested me.
Oh, I mean, it's all about, the thing that's funny is like the guys that are the biggest sellers of stuff are the same guys that will tell you to fight globalism, to have like a bug out bag, but they're going to sell you all the products in that bug out bag. They're going to sell you the storable food. They're going to sell you purification systems. They're going to be as hard capitalists as they can be until they send you off to the farm to live like an Amish person. Like, it is kind of hypocritical in a way like that. I mean, it's very funny that they're so in favor of you unplugging from the evil corporate system while giving them money so that they can be a part of the corporate system.
Yeah. There's an amazing program. I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix called Preppers, and it's basically about these dudes who are like, great. And then they score them. It's like, right, your prep score is, you know, and they go through all the different. That's brilliant.
I've never seen the prep score, but I remember right before the 2016 election, I remember seeing all these doomsday preppers just talking about, like, if Trump gets in, he might be able to stop the war, but if Hillary gets in, you need as much earth between you and the surface as possible because the nukes are going to fall.
Well, and everyone's banging on about China now, aren't they? That's the big big thing now, isn't it?
Yeah, they're the new bad guy because Putin's a good guy in QAnon world. Yeah. So is Kim Jong-un. All the real crazy guys of nukes are now our friends, and only China is bad.
Has there been any blowback against Putin now that he's congratulated Joe Biden, or have they just kind of left that?
All the QAnon supporters I've seen that have even commented on that were laughing at it because they love playing this game when if someone they like does something they don't like, they will pretend they did it for like optic reasons. They always make a move like that, like 5-dimensional chess.
Okay, right.
Basically, like I looked at Twitter for a few minutes before I jumped on the stream here, and what I saw about the Putin congratulation call was mostly, that Putin, that rascally scamp, he knows what he's doing, he knows this isn't going to stick. Yeah. So they're just pretending. Like it was really funny because McConnell has more of a history in America, So, like, half of QAnon thought that McConnell was a treasonous swamp rat when he called Biden president-elect, and the other half thought that he was just performing theater, and that Trump told him to call him president-elect, and then soon.
Because, and I saw a thread about that yesterday, talking about his wife and his, her Chinese links.
Oh, yeah. Mitch McConnell's been infiltrated by the Chi-Coms. Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, it's all fascinating stuff, and could talk about it for hours. But you are obviously, it's very early in the morning, and I appreciate you're a busy man. So, Mike, thanks ever so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure.
I'm glad to be here. Again,
absolutely.
My Twitter feed, pokerpolitics.com, the podcast Adventures in Hell World with a Q instead of an O in world. Going to be doing another episode today, so I'm going to be a busy man.
Have you gone weekly now? What's your schedule now?
I do the weekly podcast with my friends, and I've been writing a book for the past 2-3 weeks. So I'm going to try to get into a better HAPS stream schedule starting probably in the new year, probably in January. I'm going to start trying to do live streams on HAPS 2-3 times a week along with my podcast, and just try to do stuff that way. So that's going to try to be my schedule going forward. I might do a HAPS stream tonight. We'll see. Because, again, I want to kind of have the book finished around March or April, so it'll have this good window of the transition from Trump to Trump QAnon. And I also want to be able to comment on any incidents that happen, because I do think that lone wolf domestic terrorism is an unfortunate likely outcome. The ex-cop who held a guy at gunpoint, demanding him to hand over the 750,000 fake ballots in Arizona, and it turned out it was just a air conditioning repairman the guy was holding at gunpoint. He didn't know what he was talking about, and some QAnon-backed private investigating firm paid the guy a six-figure sum to go hunt down these fraudulent ballots.
Wow!
So I mean, that kind of nonsense is only going to get more dangerous and more severe as the inauguration gets closer and the inauguration happens.
Well, yeah, and I did see something about the Proud Boys, and there were some stabbings, weren't there, at the weekend? I mean, I'm not saying that's QAnon, but in the adjacent.
The pro-Trump rallies in Washington D.C., there was a stabbing incident, and the details right now are murky. The right wing claiming they were stabbed by Antifa, I mean, all that kind of stuff. But again, that's the kind of thing where it's best not to talk about it for a few days and let all the evidence to come out, the 48-hour rule, as it were. I haven't delved into it, because the thing is it's just a lot of these incidents don't make the mainstream media news, and if you only hear about it through QAnon, you're going to hear a very slanted take on what happened, and it's not going to trust them for anything. I've been hearing about this Eric Swalwell incident, about him sleeping with a Chinese spy, and that was all the QAnon stuff. And then I actually saw the mainstream articles, and what really happened was either the FBI or the CIA grabbed Eric Swalwell and said, "Hey, this woman who's on your staff, she's doing stuff we really don't like. She's a volunteer for you. We think there's something wrong here." And he immediately cut her off. He immediately just removed her from everything that he was doing. And QAnon's reaction was, "Oh, this guy was banging this volunteer, and he's been compromised by the Chi-Coms, and we need to run him out of Congress now." And it's he was told that there was something wrong going on in his campaign staff and his community, and he addressed the issue. So no, it's the exact opposite of that, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some this guy, Infamous Rifles, has just said this guy actually believes the MSN, which is, but I was actually just about to make but I was just about to make a point, right? Which is this: I get the whole thing about don't trust the mainstream media. I do get that to some extent, right? Because of course everyone's biased and etc. But why is it these days it's don't trust the MSM? But if some dude's got a YouTube channel or a blog, that just go for your life. That's fine. Do you know what I mean? Why don't they apply the same degree of scrutiny to all the sources?
I may be getting the term wrong here, but this is something that I've heard called second source bias, which is basically, the MSM is lying. So whatever you hear from the MSM is a lie. So you go to the second source and they tell you the opposite. This means the second source is telling you the truth, because know the first source is lying. And that's why they don't have to dig into the second source. They don't have to vet his information because they know if he's in opposition to the liars, he's a truth teller. So they don't actually have to do any work to verify what he's saying. Because he's obviously the truth. He's obviously the truthful one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, anyway, let's draw it to a close, but thanks ever so much for your time. It's been really fantastic. What was I going to say? Interesting to see what happens over the next, few weeks and couple of months. I mean, let's hope that there isn't any horrendous incidents. I know that, you've been warning people of the dangers about this, and I hope we get through this next period, etc. But it's just a fascinating time, and everyone should follow Mike on Poker Politics on Twitter @PokerPolitics, and then listen to Adventures in Hell World with the Q, which is his podcast, and also support on Patreon as well. So fantastic. Thanks ever so much for joining me, and we'll speak again very soon. Okay.
Oh, sometime in February after the election would be perfect.
Yeah, mate, I'd love to do another one after the inauguration, and we can sort of see what happened and have a bit of a review.
Right, exactly.
Awesome stuff. All right, guys, thanks ever so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.